was Sister Fang Wen shared her grand lessons from the Texas storm. Our countdown to make a difference is a ticking time bomb. Business as usual is no longer an option, but people still value their freedom to do whatever they want, ignoring the symptoms, succumbing to collective misdeeds instead of collective wisdom. Such was the case in February 2021 with the Texas ice storm. So devastating it was, so not within the norm. Sister Fang Wen contemplates on the great lessons that it has brought and the urgency with our climate emergency to do something with this little time that we've got. Conserve energy and water, for these gifts of nature cannot be taken for granted. Spread the lessons far and wide and have faith with the seeds you've planted. Reduce waste, consume less, the world does not owe us so much. Our earth, our home is fragile to our careless human touch. Be kind to all and choose not to kill so that we may live. We are all able to touch everyone's innate kindness, that we must believe. Impermanence is real, make hay while the sun shines. When the world is in balance, we can all truly prosper and be truly fine. Adopt an attitude of gratitude, repent and sincerely pray. That was the wisdom sharing last Saturday morning that Sister Fang Wen conveyed. So that's the first one. The second one, Master De Huang was telling us a story, so this is a synopsis of the story. Master told a story about Buddha and a poor man who asked, "Why am I so poor? I have been poor all my life," said the poor man. "Can you be my savior?" The Buddha, in a calm and collected manner, explained that we get what we sow. Only you can save yourself. That is the law of karma we know. "But I have nothing," laments the poor man. "What can I give?" The concept of giving has been misunderstood to be quantitative and substantive. Give it perspective and you will realize giving need not be expensive or massive. A smile, kindness, decency, and being good cost nothing and are things that giving that everybody could and should. Your gifts, your talents, as simple as your sight and your muscles, can help many people, especially the weak and old, with their struggles and their troubles. A show of respect is a simple yet often undervalued gift. If you can be the reason why a person's spirit even for a moment lived. A final offering, my brothers and sisters, that you can bestow is that of love and care. This contribution is so easily summoned by anyone, anytime, and anywhere. So that's the second one. The third one was Brother Joe summarizing Master's speech on the 26th of April. Brother Joe summarized Master's speech on staying the course, the importance of courage and finding the internal force. To soar up high even when evidence appears to be improbable. With faith and determination, the opportunities will be made available. Courage when it takes flight is a force that is intangible, but when beckoned collectively, the combined strength is impregnable. Courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the assessment that something else is more important, something is more dear. When we put our sincere hearts in focus, love will come to guide, and bodhisattvas will come from all over, spreading hope and kindness far and wide. The last one was by the sign language team. Brother David, Sister Elizabeth, and Sister Adeline shared individually, but I'm combining it in one poem. Brother David, Sister Elizabeth, and Sister Adeline are from 3 different places in the country. Through gratitude, respect, and love, they created a sign language team of unity and harmony. Each of the members describes their positive experiences and learning, from teamwork to diligence to planning and accommodating. Through group effort, even mistakes are taken positively, so learning becomes joyful and remembering sign language came more naturally. We are a ball of energy, learning together as we grew our online assembly. Through Zoom, we had more members from all over. Can earn so much to technology. This, in essence, was the sharing from the sign language team. Such synchronization and congruence are a reality and no longer just a dream. And that's the end of my sharing this morning. And you can see the sun is rising from behind. Over back to you, Sister Lily. Let me stop share.
感恩 Sister SiewChing. Yeah, over to you, Brother Johan. 感恩.
Okay, good morning, everybody. That was a wonderful poem reading and poem writing. And also thanks to Brother Chin and many others, Sister Lily and Sister Effie, for sharing ahead of this. I really apologize for cutting it short. I really enjoy listening to everybody sharing and summarizing today and also last week. I think it's very important that we continue to help each other summarize, what you have learned, what you have thought, and then you collected all the thoughts. You put it in the manner where it's easily digestible, right? Just like you take the raw food and you cook it so that people can eat it in a portion, in a meal that they can easily digest. It's the same way. Many times in a speech or in a Dharma talk, it's very long. And without digesting, without ways to organizing it, it becomes difficult for us to digest and for us to ingest and for us to really take the most nutrition out of all of that. And through different ways, whether it was sign language, whether it was poem reading, reciting, poem writing, poetry in the forms of poetry or writing, or in the forms of discussion, in the forms of sharing, in the forms of speech, I think it helps us gravely to receive and remember these important messages. And furthermore, it helps the people, the person that was doing the organizing, to further organize and to further memorize the important aspects of the things that they're helping to sort out. So I think it is very important. I thank the groups that are making this possible. And I always thank everybody who put in the time to do this for others. This is also going among the people to listen and to share. Listen to take in, and share is to give what you know to more people. And I think this is very important. So I thank all the people that share ahead of this. I apologize for the time because today we have the rehearsal for tomorrow's the Buddha's Day, and some of you might already know that last year we had our first time the Buddha Day ceremony at the abode, and this year we once again shifted back to the Jing Hall. We are thankful that the troubles of the pandemic is more eased here in Taiwan. So we're allowed to have this type of gathering. Most importantly, it's not a gathering to show that we can gather, but rather it is a show of solidarity that we are indeed, with our most sincerity, that we are standing firm with the brothers and sisters that are fighting, continues to fight this pandemic, as well as those that are deep in the troubles of the pandemic. So that's why I think it's imperative that that we gather on this day, whether online or through Dai TV or in Jing Hall here in Hualien. I think it is very important. So today, very quickly, thanks to Sister SiewChing for doing the summary. But let me also quickly go through what was said last week, very quickly, because time is of the essence. Okay, so last week we talked about courage. We talked about we have some fear, always the fear of failure, the fear of making the wrong choices, the fear of not being good enough, the fear of many, many things. And one of the courage we need and we need to have is to stay the course. And I think Brother Cheng also mentioned about most people not knowing the purpose of life. And so the question is, do we know the purpose? Do we know the direction? If many people do not, but what about us? Do we know? And if we know, do we have the courage to stay this course? Okay, so Master talked about having firm faith. It is very important that Brother Cheng also mentioned that it needs to be very firm, the faith. So it's the origin of courage. Because you believe, so you have the courage. Because you know you believe, so you have the courage to continue. And we talked about Master saying that let go of the fear and let your courage soar. Let the courage soar high above and to be able to complete the improbables. And most importantly, not only do you have the firm faith, but you also have the sincerity, the genuine sincerity that you have, and also infinite love to guide you. So you are sincere and genuine, and you're guided by infinite love, so that there is no fear, no misstep, and no indecisiveness. We also talked about having courage does not mean having no fear, but rather you have overcome this fear because you know the direction you want to take. Especially when you're faced with the unknown, you know you have your faith. So that's what we talked about last week. And thanks to Sister SiewChing to help summarizing. But this week, we're going to talk about a continuation of this courage issue. We're going to be learning from history. We're going to be learning something from history. And it's once again coming from the Dharma talk from Master. This came from May 5th, the Morning Volunteer Assembly. And if you know that May 5th was the 55th anniversary of Tzu Chi Foundation. And so it was 55 years ago that Master founded Tzu Chi, the Merit Society. And so it was indeed a very huge milestone. And on that day, if you had the opportunity, you will be on Zoom, be able to see that on that day, we had the performance, the Sutra performance. And that day morning, Master gave the Morning Volunteer Assembly talk. And I was very, very taken by the very beginning, because Master talked about the story that happened. Okay, so that's why talking about learning from history. So Master talked about we're united in our faith and vow with the same direction and objective. Together, the strength of many, we can overcome many and all challenges, accomplishing our will. So this goes together with what Sister SiewChing shared about last week, when the sign language team together, even from 3 different parts of the country, and we're able to, through the technology, through Zoom, through many different things, gather and then overcome many, many challenges, still be able to provide the final fruition, which is this completed sign language performance. Okay, so it was very clear. Okay, so now moving into the history part. So this is the picture that Master talked about. There was this bus that was stuck while it was trying to cross the riverbed. And we've probably seen this picture many, many times. We knew that it wasn't because of going to somewhere for fun. It wasn't going for tour. It was indeed going into the deeper into the mountains or the more remote regions for charity functions. And we also know that this photo was taken by Master as probably one of the first few photos, one of the first, if not the first photo that was sort of recorded and taken by Master. Master always said that she was probably the first, the volunteers to be able to take photographic records. Anyway, so she talked about this picture, and this is what she said. We see the bus stuck in the mud. it was on this riverbed, and going further out would be the ocean. Sometimes we are overconfident and do not apply our wisdom to think and analyze, just following shallow guesses and brute courage. So this is very different from the tone that Master used to talk about when this picture came out. And that was what struck me. We no longer talk about where we're going, but rather the fact that it was stuck in the mud. And not only talked about the people having to get out of the bus to push, but rather before getting stuck, why it was stuck, why it was thought that it was okay. So there is some key emphasis here that, first of all, it was in the riverbed, and going further out would be the ocean. And the reason why was because Master said, we are overconfident. We're overconfident and we're overcouraged. We have this brute courage that we thought with our shallow guesses that we can go across without any problem. When we do this, we do not apply this wisdom. When we do this, we will be stuck. So this is the one time that I saw this picture that Master talked about, that goes deeper into why it was stuck. Okay, let's continue. So that's why it caught my attention. It wasn't just to talk about where we're going. It wasn't just to talk about people are united to get the bus out. It was to talk about how we get into this trouble. And it was because there was no wisdom and we're overconfident. Okay, so Master continued. We thought, seeing the riverbed and the shallow water and not thinking much, we can drive the bus through the riverbed. At last, we did manage to get through a part of the river, almost safely passed through. We almost got through, it was almost through, but not quite. And not thinking much, believing that the water was shallow and the bus can drive through the riverbed. Okay, so I mean, there are many, many questions. There are many, many details that you are rightful to ask. For example, was this the way that we went in? And when we went in, there was no problem. So when we came out, there was a problem. So maybe there was a different way. And what was the decision? Was there an alternative? There were many, many questions that you could think of. But let's just follow Master's thoughts on her guiding us through. Okay, so this is very important. Something happened, and we always remember only a part of it. And now Master is giving us the other part of it so that we can learn from it if we get it. Okay, so this is something that I always do. I take Master's teachings and I try to not analyze or overanalyze it. And I try to think about, what am I supposed to get out of this? There's always one thing that you could get out of somebody's talk, right? For example, I'm going to get to what I got from Mr. Tzu Chi, from Sister CiewChing's poem, and I'm also going to share what I got from Brother Cheng. I always make references to what they said because that's what I remember. Okay, so whatever we hear, whatever we listen, we should always make an effort to try to know, what did I get out of this? And that's why I mentioned in the very beginning, it's very important to help people summarize, because while we know and summarize in our own mind what we have just heard, it is also very good to hear what other people have heard. It also strengthens what we have heard and also let us remember part of it. Maybe we have already forgotten already. Okay, so part of it, okay, so the bus did manage to get through part of it, almost safely passed through, but at last it didn't. So Master said, we almost made it to the shore, dry land, but still didn't quite make it. So the bus was trapped, wheels spinning, but not moving. Okay, so it's spinning, right? The bus was supposed to carry us, but ended up with us pushing the bus. Can it be done? Okay, so there are many things here that we are seeing here, right? Almost, but not quite. The bus was spinning the wheels spinning very quickly, but you're not moving. It sort of gives you this, this poetry where, you can think of the mouse that is trapped, right? You're running on the spinning wheel and you're running very fast and the wheels are spinning very fast, but you're not going anywhere. And that has many, many, many similarities with what we do in life, with what Brother Cheng said. Do you know what you're doing? Do you know your goals in life? Do you know your purpose in life? And what do you do to strengthen or deepen that practice? These are the many things, right? So here, deepen the practice means getting the wheel spinning even faster. But if you're not going in the right direction, or if you're not doing the right thing, making it going faster isn't gonna help you with moving the bus. So now you have what you're supposed to do is the bus was supposed to carry you, but ended up with you pushing the bus. Okay, so these are the things that you can really start to think about. Okay, so these are more deeper, right? The bus was supposed to carry us, but ended up with us pushing the bus. Can you think of something similar to life as well? That happens in life all the time, right? Something that was supposed to help us, something that was supposed to be our tool, and they ended up with the tools hindering us. Our body was supposed to carry us, but ended up with the body hindering us, right? So next, can it be done? And the answer is with all of our effort, we still couldn't manage to get the bus out of the mud, right? So no, it can't be done. So it was almost sunset, and it was quickly getting dark with rain almost coming down and an impending typhoon alert. We were all very worried. So now there's a time here, right? You can spin, your wheels are spinning and it's not working, it's not moving. You are pushing and it's still not working. And the rain was almost coming down. The time was getting later and later, and it was getting darker. And there was an impending typhoon alert. Perhaps there was a reason why, I don't know, that the water, the river was the water was coming bad, there was more water, we're not sure. But there was time that was pushing. You don't have all day here, right? You don't have all day here. Okay, so Master said, we had to quickly get someone to get us a tow truck, tie the rope to the bus and tow the bus. And we all had to push in the back to help with the effort. So at the end, this is how you get this bus. You get this bus out. It wasn't because all the people got out of the car to push. It wasn't. It was because somebody ran ahead, got a tow truck. It was the old day. It was probably something that came out of the farm or something, and tied the bus and tow it out. But it wasn't enough. You needed people to push. Okay. So that was sort of what Master said in the very first 5 to 10 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. It was very short, but to me, it was very, very memorable because it wasn't just talking about how people united. It wasn't just talked about how people were going to do charity. It was talking about courage without wisdom. It was talking about people making the wrong choices. It was talking about people putting their effort together to push and still couldn't make it. You know, this is not fairy tale where everything, if you do this, it will work. This is real life. You're going to do something right, do something that's necessary, like going to help people with charity. But problem happens, right? Hardship, challenges are going to be there. You're going to be united. You're going to have 10 or 20, 30 people getting out of the car and push, even with Master standing there, snapping the photo, making this a forever record. But it wasn't moving. It wasn't just because you put your effort together that it will work. So what did we learn? What did we learn out of all this, right? So it tied in very well with what we talked about last week, courage. I think it's important to have courage. And as we talked about from last week, Courage is derived from faith. You have strong faith and guided by infinite love. And I think that is very important, right? Many times you are stuck because you don't know how to move forward. You're afraid of failure. You're afraid that you make the wrong decision. So courage is important. But courage without wisdom could also be misguided. It could say, yes, we could make it through the riverbed and let's push through. And while that was the brute courage that was mentioned by Master, we weren't sure who made we don't know who made this decision. But it doesn't matter now who made a decision. But Master was clear that it was a decision that was misguided. It was without wisdom. So I'm sure that's why if you go into detail, there are many questions you could ask. What's the alternative? Is there a different route? Maybe you're trying to save time. Maybe there was something that was impending. Maybe there was a reason why we had to quickly, go home. We don't know. But whatever it was, Master talked about making a shallow guess on that it was safe to go through this riverbed, but it failed. It wasn't the right decision. Okay, so next. With too much faith, we may also become overconfident, right? You're so confident that it will work because you're so faithful. And sometimes, like it was mentioned, it was important to have sincerity. It was important to be genuine. It's important to have faith. But when you have too much faith and not enough thinking, right? Not enough contemplation, you're working all the time. You're pushing forward all the time. You're doing all the time, but not enough contemplation and not enough helping each other summarizing what had happened. We may also become overconfident. So overconfident that we have this brute courage. Yeah, of course it will be done. Master told us, if we have courage, perseverance, and faith, anything can be accomplished. Okay, we can become overconfident and making the wrong choices. Next, sometimes even putting all of our effort together, it just isn't enough. And this is probably the biggest thing because we hear all these things from all the idioms, from all the places that tells you that if you put all the effort together, it will work. But the truth is, it wasn't moving. You couldn't just get people pushing and it would get the best out of it. It was great, but it wasn't enough, right? So why? I think that Sister SiewChing shared, right, that from last week, that it was important that through uniting our efforts together, even though there were challenges, even though there were some disagreements or whatnot, that it made all these mistakes acceptable, right? So people working together, most of the time, resolve the problem, but not all the time. It sometimes will not be enough. What you need is an outside affinity, right? A tow truck as a leverage. And that's what Master talked about all the time now, that you could put in all your effort, right? The thing with India right now, you could put in all your effort, but without some kind of leverage in India, without some kind of group that works there in conjunction with your efforts, it's not going to work. So today, on this particular story, Master talked about a tow truck. It's not these people that push the bus. No, they didn't get this out. You could work all you want and unite all you want, but it's just not gonna get the car out. What you did was you have an outside affinity and using it as a leverage, right? So Brother Chin talks about understanding that everything is just a temporary union of the causes and affinity, right? So the temporary union between the tow truck and the bus and the people, now you have enough leverage to get the bus out. It's a temporary union. The bus isn't going to tow the tow truck isn't going to tow the truck once it's out of the riverbed and goes onto the highway. It will slow you down, right? It will become the opposite again. It will become that it was something that was supposed to help you, but it becomes a drag. The bus was supposed to drive people, but it was the people that pushed the bus. If you don't know, okay. So it becomes, if you don't know when to let go, it becomes a drag, right? If you make the wrong choices, what was supposed to help you will become drag to you. Same thing. If you make the wrong choices, the people that were supposed to be in the bus will be out of the bus to push. If you make the wrong choices, then when you're on the highway, you cannot go very fast because you have a tow truck. You didn't let go of this tow truck. In any event, this is the leverage to complete an improbable task. We need this. So that's what we learned from this story. And just from a very short master speech, 5 minutes, it wasn't even 5 minutes to complete this segment, but I got so much that I have a completely new meaning, new understanding of this photo the next time I see this. It's not just a group of people working together to push. It's not just a bus stuck. It talks about a wrong decision. It talks about decision without wisdom, with brute courage. It talks about the efforts putting together by the people, but not enough. It talks about a outside affinity to be able to leverage together. That's what I got from this picture. So I thought that was something that was worthy of sharing. Thanks to everybody, and I think I hope we're able to, as Brother Cheng says, that we need to observe and understand. Dharma and knowledge is all around us, but are you able to see it? Sometimes it's through the sharing and the summarizing that people are able to understand. And I think it's very important. So even a picture from this, we can learn from history, not just seeing the people pushing, but also seeing, well, not seeing the not seen, which is the decision to go on this riverbed, and the end result, which is through a tow truck to get it out. You have all these people pushing, but it doesn't mean it was going to get it out. You always need some kind of leverage, and that's what Master has been talking to us about, leverage. Know what you can and what you can't do, and leverage to get the things done. So that's my sharing for today. Thank you very much. And for now, we're going to go back to the sharing for our refugee program in Malaysia. Thank you.
Brother Joe, for the wonderful sharing of this passport, truly so much this leveraging. I'm sure everyone has a lot of reflections on our own efforts, be it communities or in the working or daily life. And Brother Joe for the great insights. Yeah, today we have this team, the team refugees that will, volunteers that will be sharing their grand lessons. One of the sharers, she last night was not feeling well, so we pray for her full recovery. Let us hand over the site immediately to Brother Dave, who will lead us into this sharing. Over to you, Brother Dave.
Sister SiewChing. All right. Good morning, Shifus, brothers and sisters, all present here. I'm Brother Dave. Kan'en for this opportunity to share. So I wanted to share about something I observed and is trying to practice what I learned from the past few years in this program. So this is a CBI, we call it the cash-based intervention. Some key Dharma lessons, which I think it's very interesting. It's worthwhile. I shared with everyone. So if I can go to the slide, I understand we are short of time, so I'll try to be quick. So the first, I have to start with the short history of this. This collaboration project with UNHCR started in 2017. It started with a small coordinating team under the Pusa, Brother Andy. In each cycle, cases average up to about 20 cases, which we are quite comfortable with. It's manageable. But this number rise up very quickly to 60, 80 cases per cycle, which is about 3-4 times more than the original. That moment, our small team there was quite fearful due to insufficient number of GL, group leads and team members to partake. Such few volunteers, but so many cases, it's definitely going to burn out all the participating members. So quite a number of us was we were quite hesitating to accept that number given by the Tzu Chi office, but not after advice from our senior volunteers in English group. It's about the power of vow. So this first item I want to share with everyone is the power of vow. So what's the importance of making a vow and working towards it? See, in a corporate world, which we are very familiar with, we always have to think like 10, 20 steps ahead before making decisions. When we see that there's not enough participating members to cover the large number of cases, obviously there is no way to accomplish it. Not only the visitation will be hard, but the report writing, the report checking and validation, everything will be also very long and tedious because we don't have enough volunteers. In addition to that, these cases are not only assigned, they are only assigned to the English group and not to other functional groups because the other functional groups are also very overwhelmed. So it's only tied down to the EG group, yeah. So what can we do here? Back then, what we did was we have to take a stand, make a vow, and bend our mind towards it. So that's what I learned from the senior volunteers. You see, when we make a vow which is so charged up with sincere thoughts of wanting to help refugees, bodhisattvas will come in and join the cause. So what happened is we literally accepted the challenge. We are a small team taking up to like 80 cases. It was tough, extremely tough in the beginning. I remember doing like 6 or 7, 8 LVAT home visits in a Saturday. LVAT, that's the tool we use to interview the refugees. So we do like wake up in the morning, do 4 cases in the morning, and then after lunch we do another 4 in a small team, and then we do this like 2 to 3 times in a month just to cover the large number of cases. And then in the evening we do the report checking. We also implement quite new strategies so that we can cover more cases. But not long later, many more bodhisattvas joined the cause, and we have slowly grown to a much larger group than before. Our task force group, the group for planning and staff report checking, is expanding. Our number of group leaders increasing, and many new volunteers also joined the cause and even progress from a new volunteer to Chen to Pei-Xin. If I can go to this slide here, in last year, 2020, we covered like more than 20,000 cases in a year. But that's the grand amount from all the functional groups. The 3 main functional groups did about only like slightly less than 1,000 cases, just to put some numbers there. But more importantly is the project has sort of grown to other regions in Malaysia. It started in KL, which is where the pilot. Then it went to Malacca, to Johor, Penang, Kelantan, all over Malaysia. I think it's going to get launched into other parts of the world too. CBI is a great platform to recruit many new volunteers and introduce Tzu Chi philosophy to everyone around. So yes, I think when we talk about rational thinking, it usually works everywhere, but not entirely in Tzu Chi, I would say. if we are to use this sort of conventional mindset, we might fall out of CBI from the refugee program because we are too afraid, too fearful to take up the numbers given. It was tough in the beginning, exhausting, but the rewards of seeing happy smiles, receiving the cash, it is worthless. So I would say we cannot let the logical mind rule everything. Make a vow first and then bend the rational mind to make it happen. I once heard from psychology, the mindset is conditioned to be safe. We always make decisions, very calculated, very safe decisions, right from childbirth. We are conditioned that way. Making decisions based on a leap of faith isn't what we are taught even at schools. Yeah? But in spiritual cultivation, there's power in making a vow first, charge it up with pure, sincere cause, and then there's literally nothing. Nothing can stop you from achieving it. Yeah. So that's the first thing that I observe and I'm trying to practice from my few years in this refugee program. So the second part here I wanted to talk about is faith. I understand that earlier there's some nice sharings from Brother Joe on faith, having courage and doing it with great wisdom. That's the key point. So this part here, I think it's quite related to the first point. I think over time, throughout the few years in this project, I can't help but felt like my own faith is shaken, because in CBI, in this project, these cases are no ordinary charity cases. The local charity cases, usually we watch over them, help them for long periods of time until the care recipient is able to stand up on their own. But in CBI, it's a short 3 months cash assistance, which is sort of like a touch and go situation. So you just come in, you assess the case, and then you help them for 3 months, then you move on to the next case. It's not a long-term system. So the questions I had in mind is 3 months. Is 3 months enough to help them, or most possibly cannot help them? Am I doing enough for this POC, this person of concern? So I always have that questions running in my mind as well. So from the discussions with senior volunteers, I understand that I understand that refugees are beings with a slightly heavier karmic manifestations on Earth. They unfortunately could not just live a simple normal life. Many succumb to illness, then still without financial capability to seek treatment. Many have useful degrees and mastered it, and they had to become security guards because it's not accepted in the country. So why not Guanxin Pusa Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva, just like make no suffering? Why can't we just heal everyone who had cancer? Why can't we just magically snap? If you're poor, you become less poor. If you're uneducated, you become more knowledgeable, stuff like that. It's all because of karma. It is inevitable. Everyone has their own karma, their own debts to pay. When I was in Philippines, I still remember a situation where I walked down the street with the volunteers, and then I asked the volunteers, why are there so many beggars down the street? What's their story? And the Philippine volunteer said, oh, this guy had this cancer, this guy had this cancer. Okay, the guy down that corner has this cancer. It's as if everyone is physically unfit. They have cancer, they don't have money. It is such a painful scenery to watch. And when I thought about that, it seems like there's nothing we can do about it. There's only so limited resources we have to help everyone. So we are limited in a sense, yeah. And honestly, every now and then from my few years in the project, only a handful of cases are truly resolved. It can be either through relocation to a more advanced country. It could be a successful medical surgery. It could be like the refugee found a stable job, found a shelter, something like that. But the rest are only partially resolved after the 3 months. But what I learned through the years is that even if it isn't fully resolved, some refugees with very innocent hearts, they always come in and show how happy they are. Some see that when the Tzu Chi volunteers show up in the most crucial time is already very helpful. Sometimes this material, physical money can be overrated. Sometimes the time spent talking with them, disentangling their doubts, their worries, finding solution to their concerns, this kind words of wisdom is actually tremendously helpful. And more importantly is that Tzu Chi volunteers planted seeds of compassion, seeds of hope, positivity in their mind. One thing is that this small chapter of encounter with the refugee is only but a small segment of their lives, after lives and lives and lives ahead, if we believe in reincarnation. So planting seeds is a very important task, I believe. And I think our encounter with refugees is one but affinity. We are able to walk with them through the toughest of times. So that's already something very beautiful for me. And anyway, obviously we want to help the refugee the best we could before we finish 3 months. But when it's time to let go, I learned that we have to detach from it. And it's that time that we need to have a lot of faith. We need to have faith that we have done our part. We need to have faith that this refugee can survive. We need to have faith that it's time to move on to another refugee, because there are thousands and thousands more down the line needed us to visit them and help them. We need to have faith that we are doing the right thing. So that's the two key points that I learned from the few years in this project. Yeah, I think we're short of time. Okay, moving on very quickly. I'll just brief this through. So some joy from this remote CBI work recently. So as you know, in this COVID situation, we are all now working remotely. So it's always nice to have these refugees being very grateful and send you well wishes through the phone. So the first one here, it's talking about them taking pictures of the money they receive from the Tzu Chi volunteers, and then they send it to me, and then they say, "God bless you. Please take care. I wish us well." Second cases, one of the refugee friends even sent the refugee itself a new phone, knowing that their phone is of bad quality. And that's also some very nice stories behind it. The third one is a more dramatic case. Breadwinner of the family had fallen sick, cannot work, not enough financial cash to go through. So we help them, and they are very grateful, and they always send us like messages saying thank you and stuff. Yeah. Yep, I know it's very short. I will pass it to the next sharer. Sister SiewChing, are you there?
感恩 Brother Dave for such a heartfelt sharing. Good days, brothers and sisters. Deeply, SiewChing is really grateful to have the chance to join We Care, We Share. English group We Care, We Share Affinity starts on 17 March 2021 when team leads in meetings spoke of this field of blessing where each functional group will act as bridge to collect the inspiring and heartfelt stories of refugees home visits. Soon the team is in actions. Masters often reminded us not to forget that year, that person, and that good thought. We pray through We Care, We Share, we could achieve such, using refugee home visit stories to first inspire ourselves and later inspire others. Each of us act as a farmer and a well digger, collecting each story and let these droplets flow into the vast oceans of Mary's English group collections, merging with those from Entrepreneur and SiewChing group. Slide 2. Year 2020, year-end blessings as a team. May we learn great lessons and benefit all beings. May we do goods and bring harmony to the world. Hope that these 2 years could serve as the years of grand lessons via sharing stories of refugees home visits during COVID time. Slide 3. Soon English group We Care, We Share task force was set up. The structure is at top. Slide 3. Originated from the refugees and GLs. Group leads, Brother Dave, sorry, next slide. Reporters, they will collect stories and pass on for editing before sending to office and concurrently to be published at refugees, volunteers, group chats. We are very grateful to Sister Lily for facilitating, Brother Benjamin as a publisher, both Brother Yu Chuan and Brother Enric as editors, all immediately say yes when approached to help. Probably some may ponder if there is really so many stories to share during this time, because we understand for distribution during COVID, one needs to adhere to strict SOPs and we could only spend maximum 15 minutes to pass on the monies and we could not enter the house. Anything have to do under the sun, it's in open space because of the COVID conditions. Even the numbers of volunteers are reduced and there are even age restrictions on volunteers. However, the fact is since lockdown in March 2020, that happened so suddenly and many SOPs that surfaces. Despite all this, there were so many heartfelt stories taken place and is still taking place. Quietly then, I really made a vow, like Brother Dave, vow is truly very important, a sing to document these heartfelt stories, but that remains a vow. I didn't really put into action then in 2020. Now could realize why Master again and constantly urges us to mix vow for that will give us courage to realize it, as what Brother Joe shared last week. And this week he did this revision. What is courage? Courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the assessment that something else is more important than fear, by Frank, President, one of the past president of USA. In fact, like today, I think many of us are still going out for refugee visits, and we understand that MCO has again restarted in Malaysia. There are a lot of cases around yet because I could not bear to see the suffering of the refugees. The kitchen is empty and bare. So it's there's no choice. We really, but be trusting this sincerity, there will be infinite love to support. Such is also the cultivations of the 6 paramitas: giving, enduring, diligence, precept, samadhi, and wisdom. Guided by masters, 上人感恩、尊重、爱 gratitude, respect, and love. This We Care, We Share team have set up a form to ease the documentations of stories. Doing this, the We Care, We Share missions, we are guided by Masters' 3 yearly wishes. May all minds be purified. May there be peace in communities. May there be no disasters in the world. Presently, we have already collected more than 10 stories and submitted 2 to the office. The first story originally will be shared by Sister Lizine, but because of her condition, she's not able to share. We'll see if there is a summary being shared later. The second story is by, this story is about how one refugee is helping another refugee during crisis, when one was evicted by the house owner because they could not afford to pay rental, but the other refugees took the. The second story is by Sister Effie, which titled "Endure Like a Camel, as Courageous Like a Lion." During that visit, the refugees kept questioning the volunteers of why the amount was given was so low, and it was one-off somehow. She was really unhappy, and she also kept asking the volunteers if she could be repatriated to the more developed countries. But So one of the volunteers tried to explain, okay, I was the one with Sister Effie. I tried to explain to them, but seems that they were still not so happy. Then Sister Effie quietly listened and patiently she explained to the volunteers the conditions and even managed to convince them to transform this into Tzu Chi blessings. And she also, the refugees and the two friends accompanying her later, they were happy with the explanation. They even could transform the unhappiness into acceptance and later joined the program that they were having then, Superhero, which is the vegetarian program, hoping that they could transfer the merits into blessings. So the next story is story 3 by Brother Calvin. It's a story of kindness. A young 15 years old Hamid Bahahi, despite entitled to a refugee aid, later he declined it after he understand from Brother Calvin that there are still many suffering refugees out there. 15 years old, this boy in Malaysia, he decided to pass this money to those more in need because he said he has found a job. Such is the great kindness of everyone, like Master said, 人人有佛性. The next story, slide 4, story about the 19 field calls and the hungriest baby. The day before lockdown, the volunteers immediately distributed the monies in hand, all except to a single mom of 3 children. The first time lockdown implemented in Malaysia back in March 2020. After 19 field calls to these refugees, either the person will hang up the call or she will speak in language that the volunteer did not understand. So volunteer later had to go back to office. She used lunchtime to do distribution, so no choice. That night, the volunteer received a message on the address, a new address of this refugee to go or not to go, because the next day is the lockdown. There was so much uncertainty and everyone's hearts was troubled because it was the beginning of lockdown day. But next time the volunteer decided to go. In this case, it was truly a very special case. Remember the first time visit, the volunteers almost missed it because she also didn't pick up the call. The translator tried to call her. She also did such, but the team went in despite all those. They last minute, it was very fortunate because as the team reached the house, the mother and the young children wanted to leave the house. They wanted to move to another place because they really couldn't pay the outstanding rental. So that time, the volunteers had a quick chat with the mother to understand the situation, to prepare the report, LVAT, which Brother Dave mentioned earlier, is for the tool for us to assess the condition and send it to UN for assessment. The volunteer had a chance to nurse the baby, the hungriest baby ever. I'm the volunteer and I have 3 children. I'm used to help my mother to take care of many babies. This is the hungriest baby I've ever seen. So, okay, because of time, cut short this, but the volunteers is later very grateful because I still managed to send the money to the mother on the day 1 of COVID. The mother had a fever, but we are grateful to Pusa Bodhisattva for taking care. No one had fever and all is well after that. Okay, the 5th story is the story of deepest gratitude. It is pretty common for us the volunteers to be greeted with teary eyes of refugees during these COVID distributions. They are so grateful to receive aids from Tzu Chi volunteers that actually, in fact, most of them they don't have a hope. Like some of them, they couldn't even dare to dream that there will be people, volunteers coming to see them during COVID. Yet, so that's why it added on to the deep cherishness. The kitchens were empty, months of rental still outstanding, danger of evictions by landlords. There were also stories of abuses. So there was this inside these stories that we received is about the stories of one of the refugees whose life was transformed after she received sewing machines from the volunteer earlier on, and she has started bamboo coin donations. And because of that, she's very grateful for the I think that the offerings not only of the money but also the Dharma, the relief of suffering. So it was pretty common then for the volunteers to go up to 8 to 9 cases because the 2 leads were combined in a day and go up because we tried to reduce the number of volunteers during COVID time. But the volunteers will seize each opportunity. Reach 1:30 prayer time, we will join the Tzu Chi community to pray Qi Dao. The refugees also they will join us during the Qi Dao, so they also can send their prayers and express their feelings during that time. Lunch at times will be dragged until 3 p.m. because we try to complete as much as possible. And that when we heard about the Taroko train accident where the Tzu Chi volunteers have queuing up and didn't take their lunch. They're not because they want to wait for the last remain to send out. It reminded me of the 3 o'clock lunch by this group of refugees volunteers. Slide 5, story 6 about the past, present, and future. Actually, this is a case of passing the baton, group effort. Since it was the last distribution of CBI, the case will be closed. Yet because the volunteers that they, we know during COVID distribution, we are not go up to the apartment, but because we had some rice donated by some kind people, so we bring up the rice to this care recipient. We saw one of the boys' son hands being tied up to the window, so the volunteers could not bear it, that image lingering, and they immediately set up another team to go and visit the family. We were thinking that only 2 generations have issues. We know that 2 sons have hyper and autism, and the great grandma has some skin issues. Least that we know, once the Tima team and Sister Lee-Sim, she was very kind. She led the team there. She saw 4 generations, in fact, were having problems. Each layering, each from the grandchildren to the mother to the grandmother to the great grandmother. Each of them have their various kind of sickness. So such is truly the suffering. Like Master said, the 4 noble truths of Fuji Metta. There's so much suffering in this world, and it's for us. The bodhisattva that Master is guiding us, the emergence to emerge because of the suffering of these sentient beings. Case. Another case during these submissions of the We Care, We Share, we also receive refugees sharing how the volunteers sharing how the refugees could use the cash aid to they use it to buy materials to cook lunch and sell to friends, so it could transform their livelihood. And we also heard how the volunteers could connect via Jing daily, sending it to the refugees in need. Of course, it depends on the affinity. Because the volunteers believe offerings of Dharma is the highest form rather than merely offerings of money. And we, of course, it's with a right affinity. The slide 6, stories number 7 from Brother Benjamin and Brother Leong about how these brothers, they refer the computers, the second-hand computers or laptops are left by people at the recycling station. They will send it to the refugees in need. So grateful for listening to these stories of all 4 infinite minds: compassion, joy, loving kindness, and equanimity. Alone one can go fast, but with a group we can go far. Pray that through the stories of We Care, We Share, infinite Dharma doors will appear in front of everyone. Due to time, we could not share all the stories. Lastly, these 2 Jing for everyone to read together. The true value in life in accomplishing meaningful deeds. A vow must be expressed with actions, not merely words.感恩Masters, Sifu, Abode Masters,感恩Brother Joe, and感恩brothers and sisters for listening.